I'll let you know. But this week, I was making someone a cheesecake, and I did everything the right way. I did everything like I was supposed to. But I put it in a different oven that I wasn't really knowing how it was going to necessarily turn out. I thought it was going to turn out really well. But we'll just say it exploded. And it just like literally popped up in the middle. I mean, my cheesecakes just don't do this. Like I have a method. I do everything the way that I'm supposed to do. And it looked like an atomic bomb or something. I don't know. And then it like caved really heavy. And so we're talking about life experience because God used this, and I said, God, like, what in the world? I'm like, my husband and I have this bet, like, I like electric stoves, he like gas stoves, his doesn't work because we have his and her stove, so I'm like, electric's better, but anyway, I put it in the gas stove, and it just did not turn out well, and I will say God spoke very clearly to me, and I don't know who this is for, I don't know if this is for somebody streaming or somebody here tonight, but God spoke very, very clearly, and he said this. He said, it has to do with the environment. It has to do with the environment. I don't know what that's for. I'm not going to add anything to it. I'm not going to try to interpret it because I could come up with a lot of good parallels, but it has to do with the environment. I don't know who that's for. I don't know if you're thinking about something in your past or something that's going on currently, but I will say God took great measure to specifically speak that to you. So whoever that's for, it's confirmation for something, and it's speaking to you, and you'll know it's for you if you're asking God a question. But he values you very much. He loves you, and you are so worth it. Whoever you are, I just wanted to let you know. You can put that picture up if you want, the cheesecake. I'm like, literally, it just literally exploded. Gas stove versus electric stove. I'm like, come on. But anyway, my kids devoured it anyway. But cheesecakes will be here week 6. If you guys want some, I'll be making cheesecakes for week 6. Okay, all right. Okay, anyway, so week 1, we learned to recognize God's voice, how God's speaking to us. Week 2, visions and dreams. We talked about that last week. This week, we're going to be doing dream interpretation. Week 4, spiritual giftings. So that's why I gave you guys your test. We'll talk about it next week. We're also going to be talking about the prophetic, because that's a spiritual gifting as well, and intercession. Week 5, again, we'll be talking about demons, psychics, the occult, deliverance. And then week 6, we're going to be talking about supernatural encounters, living supernaturally natural. Okay, all right. So we are going to start today by just listening to God's voice and jotting down in our journals what he's speaking. I will say Dr. Mark Virkler does have a series out there called Hearing the Voice of God, and he does give some really great examples on how to hear God's voice as well. He talks a lot about how we are left-brained thinkers in our analytical reasoning. So if we're trying to hear God's voice, it's not going to come from our left side of our brain. It's not going to come from analytical reasoning. One of the best ways to hear God's voice is to switch over to our right brain, and that's where we hear like a spontaneous flow of thoughts. And so that might make sense to some people because you're like, oh, I've had it, over here somewhere. Like you might have these random thoughts on this side of your head, and it just might like flow. I will say one of the ways to hear God's voice is to turn on music, especially worship music. You will hear God's voice. You'll oftentimes hear a lot of prophetic words spoken over people or over yourself or over situations. So one of the ways that you can help develop that in your life is by putting on music. I also wanted to point out, because one of my friends was saying, I don't hear God down here in the stomach region. I hear God up here in the chest region. So maybe God speaks to you there. I don't know. Wherever God speaks to you, I don't know. But just start discerning and picking up and identifying where God speaks to you. So Jeremy, I'm going to have you play that song first, please. And so I want you just to jot down, just listen to what God's speaking to you. If you hear this spontaneous flow of thought. that's going to make you cry? Is there anything you want to share? No. Is there anything anybody wants to share as they were listening? Did God share anything with anybody? Yes. Do you want to grab a microphone? You can. I think I can talk about it. You can talk. Just 1 second. I think there's people streaming who might not be able to hear.
Face not just blindly following when God's our footpath.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, here. I'll come your way next.
I heard several different words: supernatural, love, interpret, helping others, prophecy, unite, sacred, justice, time, worldwide.
Wow. Okay, thank you. Okay.
I heard holy, breathe, peace be still, don't think so hard, everything is as it should be, I love you, focus on me.
Wow. Thank you. Anybody else? Over here. Okay. There's 2 people over here. Well,
He's not going to move if you keep nagging. He has to see it. Change the way you address him, and he will see more of you, more of me in you, and then he will come home to follow me.
wow.
So a couple years ago, I went through a deliverance, and I don't know why, but probably in the last month and a half, the enemy's just been attacking me, attacking my marriage, attacking just who I am as a person. And so I've heard this song several times, but I'll be honest, it's like one of those that I just kind of pass by because I like the more upbeat worship. But listening to it, and when they said, shake off my captivity, today is the day to be free. And just how much the enemy is just a liar. But the other part, our children's children shall be free.
Yes.
And my son has a 7-month-old, where the mother is a non-believer. And then my daughter is pregnant now too, and not her husband, but husband-to-be is a non-believer. So it was just like those 2 verses in that song really hit me. Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
I'm just grateful for that.
I love how God highlights certain things to specifically minister to us. So that's God's voice speaking. It's just not necessarily maybe an audible voice, but he's speaking to us to comfort us or to, give us a word. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else? Is there anybody else? Okay. So that song has a lot of meaning for me specifically. Over a year ago, I felt impressed to listen to that song, not just once, but over and over and over and over, like all day for 2 weeks straight. 2 weeks straight, I just listened to this song, and I just felt God say, I want you to carry this for the church. It was this church, and I just prayed, and I would just decree, and as I listened to this song, I would pray it over this church. That's just kind of what I did. That's one of the ways that God uses me. I'll just get a song, and I'll just start praying it over somebody and singing it over them, and I was singing it over this church, and it was during the time when Pastor Brian was getting ready to name this church, and he kept saying, I don't know why, but I keep coming back to home church. And that's exactly what I had been decreeing was, Abba, come and take us home. And we're home church. So this song really has a lot of meaning for me, but that's just kind of how God works. And so if you feel led to listen to a song, you have no idea what you're praying or the impact that it's going to have on something or someone else. So I had no idea that, what he was even thinking for names for the church, but it was so pressed into my spirit. Abba, come and take us home, take the church home. So I just wanted to share that with you and give you guys this tool that if you guys are struggling on hearing the voice of God, this is one way that you can open yourself up to hearing something, whether it's a lyric that will speak to you or just the flow of thoughts that come. Okay, next we're going to go back into our groups. I did not give you guys enough time last week, so we're going to go back into some groups. Do you guys want to do groups or like one-on-one? What sounds better? One-on-one? Nobody? One-on-one? Okay. All right, we'll go back one-on-one. So find a partner and pair up, and we're going to go that route first. We're going to talk about how you recognize the voice of God in your life. If you cannot hear the voice of God, Greg Martin, can you raise your hand, please? Go see him, please. He's going to pray with you and help you discern that. It doesn't matter. Same person or different people. I don't think all the same people are here. Stephanie and Richard, do you guys not have a partner? Oh, can you partner up with David and Jamie back there, please? I'm gonna have David and Jamie. I'm gonna have them partner up with you guys. If that's okay. Yes, so you're gonna share how you recognize God's voice in your life with somebody else, just a different perspective. Okay, has everybody had a chance to share, both parties? If you've had a chance to share, then I want you to take a minute and pray in the Spirit, and ask God to show you something for the other person that He wants to speak to them. So take a minute and quiet yourself, pray in tongues, take a minute and ask God what He wants to speak to the other person. It could be a color, it could be a vision, it could be something that might not make sense to you, but it will make sense to the other person. And then provide confirmation. The other person provide confirmation back whether or not that was correct, or that way they kind of have confirmation on hearing God's voice. Okay, did everybody have enough time to get something, give confirmation? Is that good? Did everybody get something? Yes? Okay. After service, we'll have a time of ministry. So if you need more time, I'm going to volunteer Greg to meet with you up here at the front. We're going to have some ministry time. So if you still feel like you cannot hear the voice of God, then he's going to come up here and he'll meet with you some more, as well as some other people. So I have a question. How's your dream life? Have you guys been dreaming this week? Anybody have dreams? Yes? I know you have dreams. You always have dreams. That's great. She's a dreamer. She's a dreamer. Anybody else? Dreams this week? Yes? Okay. Good dreams, bad dreams? Do they make sense this week? Were you able to start trying to interpret them? Still don't make sense? Okay. Well, maybe after today, we'll be able to give you some more tools to help interpret them. So I love dreams. God wants to get your attention, and he often does it through your dream life. Job 7:14, you scare me with dreams and terrify me with visions, so my soul wants to be strangled. Has anybody ever felt like that? Okay, well, our interpretation of those words kind of loses the Hebrew meaning. So the Hebrew words that are used, you scare me, means you break me down and confuse me. To dream in that context means to speak to me symbolically. When he uses the word terrify, it means you overcome me with wonder and awe. And then vision means to contemplate or look at another dimension. So in essence, what Job is saying is when I have this stuff happen to me, I feel like my humanity is broken down. I don't understand it, but I am full of wonder and awe. And I feel like I am looking at another dimension than the world I live in. And so when God's trying to get your attention, he's often going to speak to you in dreams. Dreams are designed to need an answer. You have to have an answer. If you don't know what it means, you don't know what it means, and you have to go on this pursuit and this search. The unrest in your inner man will drive you to search for the meaning. Dreams will create a spiritual hunger and holy dissatisfaction because you need the answer. They will fill a void inside of you when you get your dream relief and as you pursue your dreams. They are designed for you to develop a desire for an interpretation, so we seek God with all of our heart. So this is just one of the ways that God speaks to us. And he speaks to us oftentimes in our dreams at night while we're sleeping because of the resistance of our soul. So often, dreams can contradict our doctrine, our own theology, our opinions, and it bypasses all of our thoughts to speak directly to our spirit. So just understand that God will give this for our life or to change our opinions, to change. I talked about last week, there was somebody who was a little bit more challenging, to love, and I was really struggling. And I woke up and I wanted to be her best friend. I just had so much love for her, but I'm just saying it just bypasses all of our emotions. It bypasses all of our thoughts and our reasons. So God uses dreams to change our heart. So if you are struggling with a situation, ask God to give you a dream. That would just bypass all of your reasons. It works. Okay, so I think we need to have a dream team. I was thinking about this. What if we had a dream team? Because I've heard about this. Dreams International Ministries used to go around to all the psychic fairs. And they would set up their own booth, and it would be dream interpretation. And I love this. They would do it on the East Coast, during the Salem conferences, all the witch conferences and stuff. And so often, they kept trying to move their tents because the people there, all the psychics, realized that their power was greater than their own power. And so it was hindering their ability to hear from their demons and things like that, because God is supernatural. He is supreme to all the power. And so when you talk in powers like that, people who are witches and things like that in the occult, they get that. And so nobody wanted those tents around them because it was inhibiting their ability to hear from their own demons. But there are so many people, so many unsaved people who have dreams that they struggle with. And so often, I cannot tell you how many dreams I've heard where it's something similar to this. I'm dreaming and I'm drowning, and there's this man in the boat, and he's reaching out to me, and I know if I just grab his hand, he'll save me. What do you think that means? And you're like, oh, okay. But I'm just saying, like, to the unsaved world, that is a big deal. And it plagues them because they don't know what it means. It's speaking to their spirit, and their spirit is getting stirred. But you need to prophesy to the secrets of their heart. You need to prophesy to their spirit. And they need us to step in and step up and start teaching them that God is speaking to them. So, I love 1 Corinthians 4:1. It says, "So then, let us be looked upon as ministering servants of Christ and stewards of the mysteries, the secret purposes of God." He does speak in mysteries. He is a God of mystery. He is a God of mystery. And sometimes you have to unlock that mystery, and you have to help other people do it. In order to be a good steward of our dreams, we have to write them down. And if you don't respond to a dream God gives you, you will have less. That's what's going to happen. So if you haven't been stewarding your dreams, repent and ask God for more and steward them. Write them down. So you steward what you place value on. Okay, so, we already talked about God speaking to us at night, and if he gives you a dream twice, he's establishing it. If he gives it to you more than once, you haven't gotten it. So he's trying to teach you something. We talked about who dreams come from and how to determine if they're from God, the soul, your soul, or the enemy. So with God, they're vibrant in color. They're going to feel like more than just a dream. A lot of times, dreams from God, you're not going to realize you were even dreaming. Like, you're going to think it's real. That's one of the ways to discern, and it's going to be really weighty. If your dream is coming from your soul, it's going to be typically muted in color, and it's not going to show God's plan or the enemy's plan. If your dream is from the enemy, it's typically going to be black and white or dark in color. Okay, so here's all, again, we're just recapping on last week. The purpose of dreams, to reveal your destiny. And I provided scripture references. Do we have that slide up there? Yes. Okay, to reveal your destiny, to understand what is in your heart, to keep us from sinning, to reveal God's will, to encourage us, to reveal the future, and to instruct us. So those are all the reasons why and purposes why God would give us dreams. And now we're going to go into the type of dreams. And I did put this on the handout here, and I just tried to summarize it really quickly. So calling dreams, to reveal to you what God wants you to do. A warning dream, direction dreams, to give you God's plan to guide you or to protect you in a situation. Intercession dreams, prophetic dreams, things that are going to happen. Invention, solution dreams, deliverance dreams, healing dreams, that's for our soul or our body. Spiritual cleansing dreams, typically these are referred to as like bathroom dreams. If you have like flushing or like showers or toilet dreams, that's typically in this category. Courage dreams, word of knowledge, self-assessment or correction, self-conditional dreams, spiritual warfare dreams, nightmares or fearful dreams, dark dreams, false dreams, physiological dreams, and soul dreams. So I think there are 19 total there. But I printed this out so that way as we get going, you can kind of reference this as we are interpreting our dream and going through the steps. So how do you know when you have the correct dream interpretation? Well, you'll have dream relief. You'll instantly have that sigh of, like you can just breathe a little bit and it makes sense, and that dream no longer plagues you. So again, remember to pray and ask God for the interpretation, because Genesis 48, when Joseph says, do not interpretations belong to God. All dream interpretations belong to God. So sometimes somebody will come up and ask me what I think their dream means, and literally I'll feel it kind of bubble up, and I'll just say something, and I have no idea. It's not something that necessarily makes sense, but it just bubbles up. And so, God's providing that dream interpretation. Okay, so interpreting your own dream. We have the revelation. That's the first part. So God's giving you a dream. He's revealing something to you. The second part is the interpretation. You have to figure out what your dream means. So a lot of symbolisms involved in trying to figure out what God is saying. The third is application. What do you do with your dream? If it's an intercession dream, you're obviously going to intercede. If it's a warning dream, maybe for you or for somebody else, you have to apply it. So maybe you have to go and you have to give it to that person. Not too many of us are called to the nations or to give the president a dream that we had. But if you do, that is okay. Then the proclamation part is where God will line up the right people for you to be in contact with to get that dream to that person. Okay, so the very first part in interpreting your dream is to write it down. Write down the main points. Daniel 7:1, and he had this very extensive dream. He said, I wrote down the main facts. That is the baseline for everything. Write down the main facts. I don't know about you, but if you ever have your child start telling you about a dream, 30 minutes later, I'm like, because they keep forgetting all the points and all the details. But just write down the main facts. Next is finding the focus. Who and what is the dream about? Last week we talked about who is the dream about. Are you the focus? Are you participating or are you observing? Where are you in the dream? What is the center of attention? So that's how you find and discern who is this dream about. Now, you could be observing yourself in the dream. So you still could be the focus. I don't know if you've ever had that where you're kind of like an eagle eye view of your own self. So don't discount it just because you're observing. You could be observing yourself. So we need to find out who and what the dream is about. Another point here is that if you were removed from the dream, would the meaning of the dream fall apart, or would the dream still happen? So that's how you can find out if you're the focus of the dream. Okay, just let's see here. Focus. Okay, and then also what is happening. So we got to find the focus and write down the main points. The next part is finding the sub-focuses, something or someone that will have influence on the focus. So sub-focuses. Some questions to ask for this would be, what lingers in your mind about that dream? What keeps coming back to mind about that dream? And what are the most arresting images in that dream? Images are powerful. They speak 1,000 words. So what images are sticking out in your head about that dream? And then what are your feelings about those people? Let's just say they're people. How did you feel about them in that dream? Did they display the fruit of the Spirit towards you, or were they really hostile and angry? So that will also help you in interpreting your dream. Then we have the details. You can write these down if you don't want to forget. Sometimes the details do help us, but they're not necessarily going to give you the meaning of the dream. So you can still get the meaning of the dream without all these details. They're just kind of like filler things. The next one is the context. You want to write down the context of your dream. Was it positive or was it negative? This will help you to reveal the meaning of the symbols, because all symbols can have a positive context or a negative context. I don't know if you've read about the lion in the Bible. Who does it refer to? The enemy or Jesus? They have both positive and negative meanings. So you want to talk about the context and what is the attitude or agenda of those in the dream. Was it positive or negative in nature? What did the dream produce in you? Were you filled with fear or anxiety, confirmation, eagerness, peace, or hope? What was the atmosphere in the dream? Was it really ominous? Was anything exaggerated in the dream? That is something, sometimes people might be taller than normal in a dream, or maybe have a bigger nose, or like a really big mouth. And if that is the case, then God is trying to make a point to you about something. So write that down. Was there any abnormality in the dream? If you argue in the dream, your soul has too much control, because our soul is filled with knowledge. So if you're arguing in the dream, just understand and recognize what that is. Our ego can also keep us from remembering our dreams. So Job 33, God makes it a point to say that sometimes we don't remember our dreams because he's keeping us from pride. So that might be something to pray about if you're not remembering your dreams. Stress is another reason why you might not be remembering your dreams. Stress causes memory loss. So if you're not remembering your dreams, you might just be really stressed as well. Another part of the context, aside from the tone of the dream, would be color. You want to write down what the color of your dream was. So the hue, the tone, was it black and white, no color, muted color, brilliant? This will also help to reveal some of the context of the symbols. And then the very last part is titling your dream. So this will help you to recall all the facts. So I gave you 6 steps here that you can go through and you can start interpreting the dream that you wrote down last week if you guys do not have a dream interpretation for that yet. So last week, we also had Stephanie. We read her dream. Stephanie, I'm going to have you come back up here if you don't mind. I'm going to have you read it, and then we're going to interpret Stephanie's dream here with all 6 steps.
I can just say it out loud.
Yeah, if you
All
can
right.
read it or whatever.
I had a horrible dream the other night, and in my dream, I was sitting on the floor next to my bed, and this demonic figure grabbed my arms backwards under the bed. Then, as I was trying to scream, he was grabbing my mouth, trying to stretch it beyond what it can stretch. It was so scary.
Okay. All right. So Stephanie did a really great job consolidating this and writing down just the main points. I think it was like 2 or 3 sentences. So that was great. So that was the first step. So now we have to find the focus. So you guys can just help. Who's the focus? Who's this dream about? It's about Stephanie. Okay. What about the sub-focuses? The demon? Anything else? Yeah. So I would say that the sub-focuses would be the demonic figure and it trying to grab her mouth and also her arms. So those would be like the 3 areas that I would focus on. And then the details. She didn't really provide too many details, which is okay. But, like the bed, that could mean something. Sitting on the floor. I mean, there's just a couple things. I'm sure there's a lot more that she could have, provided, but she didn't really provide a lot of details. Okay, was the context of this dream positive or negative? It was negative. Can you identify the type of dream that she was having? Spiritual warfare dream, yeah, definitely. What the enemy is doing to try to stop you, or it could be like a nightmare or a fearful dream, a fear that she might have as well. It could fall into that, but it's definitely from the enemy. And okay, the last one is, what would you title your dream? So when you go back and you try to remember, what would you title it? Have any suggestions for her? Silence.
That's good, because that's exactly what we had kind of discussed, is that he's
Yeah.
trying to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, I'm going to provide the interpretation here in just a minute.
sorry.
No, that's okay. So, yeah. So anyway, so then she would title her dream. So can you flip to the next slide? This was my dream interpretation for her. Can you guys read it? So this is I just copied and pasted my Facebook text to her. So first off, this is an attack from Satan during the night season, because she didn't learn any of this stuff yet. So I'm trying to explain to her, what some of this is. She didn't have these classes yet. I said, I would pray for God to speak to you during the night season and declare Proverbs 3:24 over you. I'm assuming this dream was in black and white and not in color. This dream is a scare tactic of Satan trying to keep you from what God is trying to use you for. He is trying to weigh you down, holding your arms, and keep you from speaking truth, stretching your mouth. Have you felt restricted or attacked in areas of your life lately? She didn't tell me what color the dream was. These are just things that I just picked up on. And literally, I felt this dream interpretation bubble up just instantly. But I didn't want to just text her back in 5 seconds because I instantly knew what it meant. And I was like, well, she probably thinks that I'm just like dismissing it. So I was like, let me pray about this for a little bit. And I prayed about it. I still had the same answer a couple hours later. So I sent it to her. But she didn't know, that when she has a dream from Satan, that it would be in black and white. But when I said that, she goes, yes, it was in black and white. Like, how did you know? Because that's just one of the telltale signs. So, Stephanie, is there anything you want to elaborate on? Was I right or wrong in this dream interpretation?
You were right, and I think what it is my parents know Jesus, but they're in Catholicism, and they don't believe in being saved. They think that that's not a part of it, and I've literally sent them the scriptures lately, and I've really been trying to speak to them about deliverance and being saved and how it's so important to make it to heaven, and I think the enemy wants me to keep my mouth shut.
Yes, yeah. So see how God was working, see how God was speaking. He allowed a dream in Stephanie's life so Stephanie could see a plan of the enemy, like what he's doing to attack her. And now she knows what to do. And I gave you some scriptures and things like that to pray for. So now she knows how to intercede. Now she knows how to combat this. You know, she knows what the enemy is doing to try to attack her. And now she can go and do what she needs to do to overcome this. So thank you, Stephanie. Thanks for being so vulnerable. I just love how God worked that out. Literally, I came up here to present the class, and instantly Stephanie just sent me that text. And I was like, this is so perfect. I love that. Thank you. Okay, all right. So before we get back into our groups, I'm just going to give you some symbols and different things as to what they mean in your dreams. So I will say you can have progressive dreaming. So you could have a dream and have like sequences to that dream, maybe over the next 10 years. Like God will slowly release things. So that's why it's important to write your dreams down. You can have a dream in a dream or a vision in a vision. So what do you do with that? So what you do is it's like an algebraic equation. Did anybody love algebra? I loved algebra. So you solve the dream in the dream first. So you solve whatever's in the parentheses first, and then you solve the outer stuff. So however many dreams you have in a dream, you solve the innermost one first, and then work your way outwards. Same with visions. Solve the innermost one first, and work your way outwards. Okay, the other thing to look at for dream interpretation is what was the circumstance surrounding the dream? Were you asking God a question? If you are asking God a question, oftentimes he'll answer you in a dream. If we look at King Nebuchadnezzar, when he had his dream, he was, and it says in the Bible, I was thinking about my kingdom. And then he had this dream about his downfall. So that's what he was thinking about, was his kingdom. When Daniel needed the dream interpretation for King Nebuchadnezzar, it says that he was under stress. Like he had asked God, like, God, I'm under these circumstances. So that's why he had the dream. So if we just find out what was going on in our lives when we had that dream, take a step back and look at the surrounding circumstances. I've had dreams before where when I stepped back and I was like, oh, okay, God was speaking to me about that situation. So just write down different things in your life that are going on. If you've ever had a dream where you're looking through somebody's eyes, like you're like looking through their eyes and you're not them, but you're like, I know this is them, then God is trying to give you an experience where you gain understanding through their perspective. So that's something that you might have had. The other part of all the symbolisms are what do they mean to you? So you could have a dream about a dog, and to most people, dogs typically mean loyalty, affection, your best friend, things like that. But if you're fearful of dogs, that dream isn't going to mean the same thing to you. So just understand how God is trying to speak to you in your dream. So different things mean different things to different people. Genesis 40:9-8, we're going to talk about when Joseph interpreted a dream for the butler when he was in prison. It says, then the chief butler told his dream to Joseph and said to him, behold, in my dream, a vine was before me, and in the vine were 3 branches. It was as though it budded. Its blossoms shot forth, and its clusters brought forth ripe grapes. Then Pharaoh's cup was put in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said to him, this is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Now within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your place. And you will put Pharaoh's cup in his hand according to the former manner when you were his butler. Now, why would God speak to Pharaoh's butler with vines and branches and cups? Well, it's because he was in charge of Pharaoh's drink. So that's what he did. He was in charge of the drink and the wine for Pharaoh and his table. So that's why he was speaking to him in this capacity. Now, if you have the baker, he spoke to him, in the baker terminology. So I'm just saying God's going to use what you do, what he created you to do, maybe your work, maybe what you're doing every day to speak to you. So if you're a mechanic, he might speak to you through cars. So I'm just saying he has an individual dream language for you. So one of the ways that you can help to interpret your dreams is you can make a list of your own dream symbols, like things that you dream a lot about and what they mean to you, because this will help you in the future. You need to be at peace when you're trying to interpret a dream, especially one that's very stressing, because it's hard to interpret a dream and hear from God when you have a lot of anxiety going on in your life. And you also want to be careful who you share your dreams with. Sometimes, as well-meaning as people may be, they have what's called a prophetic filter. I call it a filter. You can use it for whatever capacity you want. But a lot of times they're skewed to looking through things through a certain lens. And it could just be through hurt. So sometimes people, I call it the prophetic filter because that's what I'm used to engaging in. But like if they have a wound in their life, a lot of times all their prophecies kind of come forth from this wound. It stems out of this hurt. It stems out of this rejection. And sometimes that can happen too with dream interpretation when you're sharing things with people. You know, it's the same answer for almost everybody. Yep, you have a childhood wound, daddy issue, or whatever it could be. I mean, it's just always the same thing for every person as opposed to being objective. Because emotions do run high and emotions get involved. So just be careful with who you share your dreams with, and make sure that, you know, they are being objective. Okay, and the other thing is you can justify just about anything you do, so you really need to be honest with yourself. Maybe God is trying to reveal something in your heart, and you just have to be honest and be willing to accept what God's trying to tell you. Okay, I want to talk about dreams if you see somebody dying in your dream. Now, this does not necessarily mean that they're going to lose their life. They're going to die. Sometimes, when you see somebody dying in a dream, it just means that they're going to have like a loss of a vision. Maybe they'll have a loss of the business. Maybe they'll have the loss of a church or something that was identified with their life. That's going to be the loss. So it's not necessarily a loss of their life. However, if you do see a lot of blood in your dream associated with that, or you see them in their casket, which I have, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute, I would take that matter before the Lord and pray about it. Because that typically is a more serious dream, and that's just not like a symbolic dream. That very well could be given to you, so you intercede for their life. So I did have this happen to me. I did see somebody die, and they were in their casket, and it was more vivid than I can even imagine. It was as if I was right there, and I was standing at the foot of the casket. I mean, down to the detail of their suit, how they looked, the makeup, everything, the casket. And I saw this person's spouse standing over the casket. And you could just feel the emotion. And the spouse was just so overcome with sadness. And I remember the next part of the dream, this person went from standing over the casket, looking at their spouse dead, to being depressed. Like the joy never reached their eyes the rest of their life. Like they continued in the calling that God had for them, but they lost all their joy. And I knew when I woke up that this was a very serious dream. I mean, I woke up and I was shaking. My face was pure white. And my husband came over to me. He's like, honey, what's wrong? And I was just like, I just had this dream about this person. And his instinct reaction was, let's call them. And I'm like, what am I going to say? I had a dream that you died? Like that, you know, you have to know when to speak and what to say. And I was just like, no, I'm going to pray about this first. And I mean, I could not shake the feeling. It rattled me, and it just gripped me to the core. And I prayed all day, and even at night, I would wake up and I could find my spirit praying. I was still praying in the spirit at night. And how long did I pray? It took 2 weeks before I felt complete peace. And so in those 2 weeks, I was just praying and praying. And I mean, I was still very rattled. But after those 2 weeks, I will say I felt like it was done. Like whatever intercession I needed to do, it was solved, it was resolved. I just knew that whatever in the spiritual realm was going on, it had already been settled. So I did what I needed to do. That's how I handled it. Now, did I ever share this dream with that person? No, I never did. That person does not know about it. I never shared it. I've never felt led to. I've wanted to, because at first I didn't know what it meant, but I've never shared it. There have been 2 other times where God has reminded me of that dream, and I felt that impression that I need to pray now. For whatever reason, I don't know if there was an attack on this person's life, whatever it may be, but I have gone into intercession, serious intercession, until I felt that release again. So it happened 2 other times from that original dream. So I will just say, just because you have a dream of somebody dying doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to die. But you will know the difference, because it will shake you. It will grip you to your core. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go into some different symbols here, just to kind of help you guys. So in your dreams that you guys wrote down that you were trying to interpret, hopefully these will provide just some further clues to you. Okay, does anybody have dreams about snakes? Anybody? Snakes? Okay, so this typically represents, okay, depending on the type of snake. I don't know if you get down to the detail of the snake, but God likes to use word plays a lot. So if you have a snake, it has a long tail, T-A-I-L, but it usually represents a long tail, T-A-L-E. Okay, a tail, somebody saying something about you, things like that. So it could just be an attack from the enemy. I thought this was really interesting. If it's like a spirit, like a python that wraps around you, it's squeezing the breath out of you. So that is one way that snakes can attack. So you can't inhale. Like, does that make sense? Like every time like you exhale, the snake squeezes tighter. So it's trying to squeeze the breath out of you. Okay. Now, if you have a dream about like a cobra or like a snake that strikes, that is a venomous attack, and it's like usually just like a specific type of attack, like a bite, and so that's a different type of attack that the enemy is using. When a cobra attacks, the venom attacks your nervous system. So if you see like a strike of a snake like that, like a venomous cobra snake, the venom is actually used to attack your nerves, your anxiety, stress, depression, things like that. So that could be a tactic of the enemy. So depending on the type of snake you see, could be the type of way he's attacking you in your life, like increased anxiety, increased stress, depression. I found this really interesting. Rattlesnakes, their venom attacks your muscle system. So maybe this is attacking your spiritual strength, your faith, or your calling, like where you have a lot of your strength at. So just know, like, when you see a dream about a snake, pray about it, because a lot of times this has to do with lies or tales and things to get you from doing your calling. And it might not be about lies that other people are saying. It could be lies that you're believing about yourself, too. And God's just trying to show that to you. Okay, let's see here. Spiders. Anybody have dreams about spiders? A lot of times this has to do with witchcraft. Spiders have to do with witchcraft. Also, rebellion. Rebellion is a sin as witchcraft. So these could be, I actually had a dream about a spider when I was dealing with like a deliverance situation one time, and I knew it had to do with witchcraft. It had to do with it in the bloodline. It was a curse. It was a curse. So that's, and also spider webs. It can be used to wrap us up, get us entangled into things. I already talked about that one. What about, let's see here, tow trucks? Anybody have a dream about a tow truck? No tow trucks? Okay. It's usually helping others to a place where they can get fixed, if you have a dream about a tow truck. Fire trucks, putting out things that are destructive. A house. I know a lot of people have dreams about their home. This could refer to a ministry, a church, or a personal life situation, and a lot of times something that you're going through. If you have a 2-story home, like your childhood home was 1, and now it's a 2-story in your dream, it refers to a double anointing. Let's see here. If something looks run down or broken in your dream, it means the former authority has left, and it's decayed and not maintained. So just kind of pay attention to what the structures look like in your dream. Barns, if you have a dream about a barn or a warehouse, these are places of provision and storage. So you find what you need and give to others what they need. The foundations. These are important. Foundations are important. It gives longevity for what it was built upon. So if the foundation is cracked in your dream, or if the building gets too big, it will fall apart. If it's skinny versus a thick foundation and that's what's being identified to you, it's eventually going to crumble or break. Front porch, ability to see or recognize the future. If you have a dream out of the back porch, ability to see history or to recognize the history. Hallways. A lot of people have dreams about hallways. These are times of transition. So you're moving from one place in your life to the next place. It could be in relationships. It could be in your career. A lot of times if you have to go down a hallway and you're passing by specific rooms and you can identify those rooms, these are just markers through your journey. But if you actually go into a room, then you're probably going to go through this phase in your life, whatever that room may be. If you have a dream about a hospital, it's times of healing or recovery. If you have a dream about a roof, spiritual covering. Farms are places of provision and learning to grow and help others grow. We already addressed this last week, faceless people. Seldom will you ever see the face of an angel, and you will never see the face of the Holy Spirit. So faceless people can also have good qualities, or they can be demonic if they're, referring to bad qualities or depending on what they are in the dream. Always write down the names of the people in your dream if they're given to you. Because sometimes you're like, I know that was, Jeremy, but his name wasn't Jeremy in the dream. It was something else. God's trying to tell you something about that. So write those down because those are significant. Remember the dream that I had shared here about two people had it in the same week and they were trying to fire a gun. They had a weapon, but it wouldn't work. So guns represent authority and great impact. Darts, if you have dreams about a dart, I know one time my daughter, she actually had a vision and she was in her bed and she was so young, she would have never even known to make this stuff up. And she kept seeing blue darts all over her room. And that really means the demonic's attacking you. And we were definitely under attack. So it was just interesting how children are so perceptive to the spiritual realm. They can see so much. So I always pay attention. When my kids are having dreams, I'm always paying attention and listening, even if it does go on for an hour. Rings represent covenant and given authority. A sword, just understand when you have a sword in a dream, people around you can hurt you and they don't have to be near you. Swords fight from a distance. And it also represents, in the good sense, authority and speaking the word in the authority. A knife, this is typically like a verbal or a gossip or communication with somebody close to you. Because when you fight with a knife, it's usually in close range. Shoes, the ability to have peace or lack of peace. We already talked about the snake, but a horse, power can be significant or a great move of God. Let's see here. We talked about spider webs, the entanglement of the soul or demonic traps. Alligators. Does anybody have dreams about alligators? Okay, I thought so. I'm like, it was highlighted to me. This typically means, what are alligators known for? What do they have? A large mouth, yes. And yes, they're going to defend itself with a large tail against you. So typically falsehood or fabrication. Lots of people will listen to what the large mouth has to say. And if you try to come against it, it will come against you with a tale about you, T-A-L-E. So just kind of a lot of word plays in here, but just write it down. Write down what it is and figure out what these symbols mean. An eagle typically represents the prophetic or a prophetic calling. I really enjoy eagles. And one time I was questioning God about my gift, and I was just asking him. So ask God questions. He loves to answer you, and it's not always going to come the way that you think it's going to come. I was just asking him, God, I don't really know my calling. Can you just confirm my calling? In 2 weeks, and keep in mind, I've never seen an eagle in my life. In 2 weeks, I saw it 3 times. I saw 3 eagles in real life. I was just driving to work, and they're sitting up in a tree, 20 feet from me was an eagle staring at me. And I was like, oh, I had to stop and I had to get out, and I'm like paying attention to it. And then the next time I was just questioning my calling, and I'm driving down Armstrong Road, and literally right off the sideway, there are two eagles in the field staring at me. And everyone's just driving by. I'm like, do you guys not see these eagles? There's two. Like, I never see eagles in real life. And I was just blown away. And the third one was I was driving to Walmart, and I look up, and there's an eagle flying right in front of my car. And when I turn to go to Walmart, it flies in front of my car and it turns, and I'm like, this is weird. So ask God questions. You just never know how he's going to show up and confirm that. But I had to be looking. If I didn't stop and look or pay attention, I would have missed all these signs. Okay, let's see here. Wind represents the Holy Spirit, or it can represent adversity. Storms, I thought this was really cool. Storms. If they're light in color, it's something God is going to use to disturb things. If it's dark, it's something the enemy is bringing your way. I had a dream about white tornadoes the other day. And I was excited in the dream. I was happy. We were like trying to ride these white tornadoes. Can you just flip up to the last screen? I think I have the colors in there. I think it's the very last slide. Oh, there's nothing else on there? Okay. I will pull up the colors. Sorry, I thought that was on there. Okay. So the white, so colors always mean something, and these are all biblically based, and they have researched the Bible for it. But white means Spirit of the Lord, holy power. And I thought that was really cool. These were white tornadoes, Spirit of the Lord, holy power. And the storms, what did I say? The storms are representing something God is going to use to disturb things. A mighty storm of God. I was just really excited about that. Okay, let's see here. I'll do a couple more here. Nose, discernment. A hand, relationship and direction. Arm, strength and faith. Left, if something is identified as the left side or it was the left hand, it's what you were born or created to do. So if you're turning left in a lot of your dreams or something about the left side, it's what you were born or created to do. If it's the right, it's strength or what you have the faith to do. Teeth. A lot of people have dreams about teeth. This has to do with comprehension and understanding. You chew on things with your teeth. So something that you're trying to learn, something that God's giving you wisdom about, your wisdom teeth. Eye teeth, the ability to see and understand. Beard represents maturity and adulthood. So if like maybe there's a boy, but he has a beard in your dream, that's what that means. Hair represents wisdom and anointing. If you have a dream where you're naked, I know a lot of people are like, I showed up and I was naked on the stage preaching. I did not, by the way, but people do. That usually means humility and transparency. Now, I wish I would have said I was. But anyway, but humility and transparency, that's what that means. So if you have a lot of dreams, that just means that you're being transparent. Okay, so money can represent gain or loss of favor. And we've already talked about if you're having this dream over and over, there's something that you just haven't gotten yet. So we're going to break up into groups, and we're going to go through and identify if somebody would like to share. So we're going to break up into probably 5 or 6 groups. So Greg Martin's going to be a group leader. David and Jamie, can you guys raise your hands? You're going to be a group leader. Kim Johnson, Lee and Diana, and Nancy Minery. There you are. Okay, can you raise your hand? So go find a group leader. And by the way, Nancy has all the dream symbols written out, and she's really well-versed because she studied John Paul Jackson, so you might want to get in her group too. Okay, so we're going to go through. One person is going to give a dream, and you guys are going to help to interpret. If I give you guys 5 more minutes, is that good? 5 more minutes? Okay, 5 more minutes.
This is communion, your body broken, the cup we're drinking is bittersweet, the gift of friendship, truest salvation, born of your suffering on Calvary. Receive the kind, for His mercy is enough for the many and the one. This is communion. Take it as often as you will, for His blood has power still. By His wounds we shall be healed. This is communion. Take of the bread, receive the cup, for His mercy is enough for the many and the one. This is communion. Take it as often as you will, for His blood has power still. By His wounds we shall be healed. This is communion. We remember This is communion. Take it as often as you will, for his blood has power still. By his wounds we shall be healed. This is communion.
There is a lot of ministry going on. Did anybody feel dream relief or get something from sharing? Yes? Okay. Okay, we're going to move into a time of ministry. So we're going to close this out. I'm going to provide a testimony. I'm going to give a testimony because we know that the testimony is the spirit of prophecy. So what Jesus did once, he'll do again. So I'm going to give a testimony, but before I do, I'm going to ask, after I'm done, Nancy, if you'd be willing to come up here, and I'm going to have Nancy pray over anybody who would like to receive dreams. So if your dream life has stopped, or you would like to see more dreams, or if God's not speaking to you in dreams, I'm going to have Nancy pray over you. She has been sending out John Paul Jackson for a long time, for years, and she is a dreamer. So she definitely can impart something in your life. If you are struggling to hear the voice of God, I'm going to ask Greg Martin to come forward, and he's going to pray over you or provide some ministry to you when I'm done. So I'll call everybody up here because I'm going to give an impartation for somebody who, I don't know who might need this, or if it's somebody streaming, but I'm going to provide this.
We remember the sacrifice of love.
So I have shared that my father passed away. So he had just passed away. It just really shook my heart. It wasn't something that was expected. It was an accident. We shook our town. We grew up in a small town in Iowa. It was just a really hard thing to get over. I just know that I really struggled for years.
Led by your kindness, partake of presence as we
Everything I ever knew, we left a year after my mom passed.
we remember the sacrifice of love. We remember the blood poured out for us. We remember the only Son of God upon the cross.
Just fell into such
We remember the price you had to pay. We remember the wounds that made a way. We remember the Lamb for all who stayed upon the cross.
to the hospital. And that was a really, really tough thing because I didn't have any closure. And that was really hard as a child. And so when I was 17, I thought that the best thing I could do was I'm going to spend the summer with my grandma because she doesn't throw anything away. And so I got a chance to go through all the scrapbooks and just kind of meet with some of my dad's friends where he grew up with and just talk to them about him and get to know who he was. But what happened that summer,
Take of the bread,
so no
receive the
matter how
cup.
much I
For
looked
his mercy is
how much I
enough.
stayed at my grandma's
For
house,
the many and the one.
I had this sense of
This is communion. Take it as often as you will. For his blood has power still. By his wounds we shall be healed. This is communion. Take of the bread, receive the cup. For his mercy is enough. For the many and the one. This is communion. Take it as often as you will. For his blood has power still. By his wounds we shall be healed. This is communion. We remember mercy
now
the
I'm
call.
okay. Like I'm
His
happy to talk
mercy
about him. I'm happy to get to know him. Where that
For
wasn't
the
the case before.
many and the
And I
one.
gave this testimony to one
This
other
is
person.
communion.
This person had
Take it as often as you
didn't
will.
have the best
For
childhood.
his blood has power still.
They had
By
lost their
his
father.
wounds we shall be
Growing up,
healed.
they had just missed out on a lot of things
This is
that you would normally get to do with your
communion.
dad. This person's siblings got to do them, but she did not. She always had to stay home. And so there's a lot of regret there. And so when her father passed away, I just knew that she was going to have a dream and it was going to provide closure. I didn't know what that was going to look like. And I said, I just feel like within a year, you're going to have this dream. And about a year later, she came to me and she goes, I had that dream. I forgot to tell you, I had that dream. And she goes, in this dream, she got to do everything with her dad that she never got to do as a child. The dream went from like riding bikes to like taking walks to doing, I don't know, all the activities. But she woke up and she goes, I don't have that hole anymore. I'm not struggling with that pain. I have closure. Like everything that went unfulfilled as a child is now fulfilled. So I want to release this for anybody who might be struggling with needing closure. Maybe you've lost somebody and it was sudden and you need that closure with that person. I'm just going to ask that God would give you a dream. So I'm going to ask for you to come and I'm going to pray over you. If you need that. So that's what I'm going to pray for. Nancy's going to pray if you want dreams or if you want an increase of dreams. And Greg's going to pray for helping you to hear the voice of God. So we're going to have 3 people up here during this time of ministry. Thank you guys. Have a great night.